foot to hair extensions are tied. Why'd you hurt my man? 'Cause I hurt your pride? You broke bro code, so don't try and hide. You are a real shitty friend, and it's not right.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast. Monty DeFaro, only seen here out of Indie Music TV. At the board is probably the greatest producer in the history of producers, Abe. How are you?
What's going on, guys? Good to be back.
Jimmy Jack, welcome back, my friend. How are you?
Good, man. What's happening? I'm cold. I'm in Florida, and I'm cold. I have a jacket on.
Yeah, dude, yes. I mean, you got sweatshirts going, got jackets going. And
What
you know
is
what's
this?
funny? Ever since you left the studio, it's like a sauna in here in the wintertime. And during the summertime,
Are you serious?
it's air conditioned. No, I'm
What
not
happened?
serious. It's colder than balls in here. What are you, crazy?
Okay. All right.
All right,
Same
Jimmy.
as it ever was.
I want Jimmy, I want to send out a little prayer to a friend of the Monty and the Pharaoh show, Marty Jannetty. Seems the great First Lady of Wrestling, Maria Davis, wrote me last night and said that Marty's sister passed away, and Marty's own personal health might have gone even worse, from that ankle. According to Maria, Marty had posted that he may end up losing his leg. Thoughts?
Nothing but love to Marty Jannetty. You know the history with us going way back with Marty. At the end of the day, those who get to know Marty, Marty's a good guy. He is, and I'm very sorry about the passing of his. Was it his sister, Mike? Did I get this right?
Yes, you got it. I'm always concerned how Marty's going to digest things, and nobody should have to go through something like that. Love Marty. Hopefully he's okay. Mike, you're going to be able to check in on him? Is he reachable nowadays? I mean, what's the story? I sent him a message this morning, no response. I sent him a message this afternoon, no response.
Okay.
Last contact I had with Marty was, man, got to be over a month and a half ago, which isn't normal, Jimmy, right? Because we used to hear from him at least, once every week or so, right? So.
Oh, I used to look forward to when you'd tiptoe up to me and throw it on speaker. Sorry, Marty, but it's hilarious.
But he's doing his
Just
own
like, guess
podcast.
who I'm talking to?
He's doing his own podcast, so he's probably just trying to get that thing focused, God knows it needs.
Well, first
God
he's gotta
knows it
get
needs
focused.
a little help. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is for sure. He's strong.
You know who
Marty.
doesn't
We
need
love
a
you.
little help, Jimmy?
Definitely. Who's that?
Well, did I tell you recently what happened here?
No. What?
John Cena now follows Monty and the Pharaoh. Look at that.
Oh, my time is now! How about that? How'd that happen?
And Jimmy, I hate to be a mark at this point, but he's got over
Too late.
14 or 15 million followers. And he only follows about 700,000, and Monty the Pharaoh's one of them.
Yeah, and we've come full circle. We have Cena Senior's delicious sauce, and now we have Cena following the Trailblazers.
That's it.
That's us.
That is all.
That's sweet.
If I can
That's
interrupt
too
real
sweet.
quick, I want to show you what, the show is going to be like now, from now on. Just a little insight into
Whoa!
what it's going to be like moving forward.
It's our
Now,
new
you see-
co-host,
You
Jimmy.
see, Mike,
Yeah.
Mike, and what's the moral of this story? When you bring in a co-host, you shouldn't have to fumigate the studio afterwards. That's a co-host right there, John Cena. That's
right.
there. You can't see me. And thank God.
You know what, though?
You would-
Considering my luck, if John is going to be our co-host, Jimmy, at some point, considering my luck, he probably will go to Twitter and Instagram and everything else and tell him what a piece of shit I am.
Yeah, and you know what else he'll do? Because he's probably going to need to soon anyway. He'll start wearing a different wig for each day.
That's right. That's right. Very nice. All right,
Thank you.
Jimmy, we're excited. The return of Lee Cole will be coming on right after the
Yes.
commercial break, but I want to cover a few things with you before we finally get to dig in with our good friend Lee. Royal Rumble was last weekend, leaving so many wide open scenarios. Most recently on Raw, it was announced that CM Punk has torn his tricep and will not have his main event dream. Thoughts on that?
I'm extremely bummed. I know we make fun of Phil Brooks a lot, especially when he was in AEW, but I've been fairly pleased with CM Punk and WWE's return. I'm happy for him. Mike, try not to get sick while I say all of this. I was actually pretty disappointed that it happened to him. I was like, man, that just really sucks. And I know it sucks for him too, because CM Punk translates to fans. Okay, the fans who are into CM Punk, he translates to them on this. You're going to think this is strange, but it's like the way we love Hogan. That's the way Punk purists love Punk. Okay, it's hard to explain any other way, but the passion level is there, is what I'm saying. So I'm sure that they feel really bad for him.
Jimmy, can I just interrupt you
go
1
ahead.
second, please? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
We'll get right
What's
back
up?
to it. But did I tell you?
No, it's cool. What? No, what? My time is now.
All right.
Man,
back
if I have to do that
Punk,
like
Jimmy,
7
go
more
ahead.
times, if I have to do that like 7 more times tonight, I'm not going to be able to talk at work tomorrow. Thank you.
I know.
But feel free. It sucks, bro. It sucks. I don't know how you feel about it. Well, let's talk business-wise. I don't think that it's good that they lost him, especially at this time of year. That's not good.
You know what?
But the storyline is already there. I don't know if you've thought about that. The storyline is there.
I felt bad for him. I felt bad for us as wrestling fans. But being a Roman Reigns guy, I was like, you know what? Not such a bad thing, because somehow we're going to get The Rock against Roman, which I want.
Right.
And Cody will finish somewhat of his dream by beating Seth Rollins, who I have the utmost respect for. But, Jimmy, I wanted to ask you about this, and this really did tweak me this afternoon. On Busted Ropin' Radio, Bully Ray was speaking about CM Punk with our friend Dave LaGreca and that can of paint, Tommy Dreamer.
How exciting. Go on.
Very exciting. But Bully Ray had the audacity to say that wrestling fans or people that follow wrestling don't understand what CM Punk is going through. Only if you were a wrestler would you understand the pain that CM Punk is going through. I don't have to elaborate on that, Jimmy. What are your thoughts about that comment?
Well, he's basically being from New York, he's pulling a Boomer Esiason, which is one of the things that, I like Boomer Esiason, but I can't stand when he does you were never in the locker room and you never took a tumble on the field. How would you know? Blah, 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 blah. Look, okay, Bubba, you're right technically. I'm not a wrestler. I don't know what it's like to tear my tricep during a wrestling match, but I know what it's like to tear my tricep and then have to go be a truck driver. So stop with I'm a wrestler, you'd never understand, the same way Boomer does that crap with football. I'm sorry if we can't stand 1,000% the angle you're shooting from, but get real, bro. We all shoot from that 1,000% angle in our own lives. We don't understand what a tricep tear feels like? Well, I do.
I agree with you 100%. And I knew you would come with it. It's like,
Yeah.
You know what? We're not fortunate enough to be in CM Punk and tear my tricep, and the worst travesty of my life is I can't main event WrestleMania in 2024. How about you tear your tricep in real life? You got to wrap that shit up and go back to work because you got to feed your family and pay your mortgage, right? But we don't understand. Fuck you.
No.
I mean, seriously.
I don't have a clue. I know nothing. You know nothing. How dare you speak? How dare you speak about it? One strike for you.
Unbelievable. Also, a
Yeah.
cloud over last weekend's Royal
Yeah.
Rumble as Vince McMahon is facing sexual misconduct charges, and we're going to talk to Ali about this after commercial break, against his former employee, Janelle Grant. Most recently, the attorney for Vince McMahon's accuser, Janelle Grant, says that more people may be coming forward. The Bella twins also released a statement, as we know that John Laurinaitis is their, I guess, stepfather at this point. We are shocked and disheartened with the recent allegations against members of the WWE. It has been a lot to process since we found out this week, just as you all did. This is something we don't understand or condone from anyone, no matter who they are. They want all women to feel safe and supported in the workplace of their everyday lives. Jimmy, thoughts on those comments?
Oh, God. Okay. As far as the Bellas go, if they want to get a message out about women being safe, okay, fine. That's more power to them. But can we, oh, God, do we have to do, it's almost like we should do a whole show about this, Mike. How about waiting to see the process play out and what truly happens to Vince McMahon in the end and what's proven and what's lies and what's truth and what's not? They're throwing a relative and Vince under the bus, and oh, how dare I make a wrestling analogy here, but the Bellas have to be two of the most untalented in the ring performers that we will ever have to put through, and you're just going out there and saying that before a trial? God bless America, huh? Where the hell is the due process?
Well, where was the due process when Nikki Bella took one of our major followers of Long Island's #1 show and ran him through the ringer? Oh, by the way, Jimmy, did I tell you who's following us now on X?
You better tell me who.
John Cena.
Oh, my time is now.
On a serious note, man. Let me tell
Yeah.
you something, and I'm going to make this statement,
Yeah.
and I'm
The neighbors are gonna
100%
get mad,
serious
by the
about
way.
this.
Yeah, go
You
ahead.
know we've been close for a long time. Vince McMahon is one of my heroes. I feel
True.
like he's a true American.
Oh, it's true.
He's a great businessman. I'm going to ask you this, Jimmy, and answer honestly.
Okay.
From what I've read, Vince McMahon has a very weird sexual appetite. Okay?
Yeah.
From what I've read, this Janelle Grant stayed in a relationship with Mr. McMahon for 3 years. Through all these accusations and the things that he did to her, from shitting on her head, whatever else. And she was paid, right? Paid money. And then paid money to shut up about it because he didn't want to embarrass himself, right? I guess he
Sure.
doesn't want people to know that he likes to shit on people. I don't know.
Right.
On a corporate level, Vince McMahon should be terminated like he was or released from TKO, right? But I'm hearing people say that this guy should go to jail for what he did to this woman. A woman who stayed in a relationship for 3 years. And this is the question I have, Jimmy, because we all know that you got to be careful being that you're a star on ESPN now. And I don't want you to get dragged into the mud with your buddy Monty here.
What was that? Wait, I didn't hear that last part. My chauffeur was calling me. What? Go ahead.
So,
Hell, bro. Go ahead.
what is the difference between Vince McMahon paying a whore, because, I mean, this is what she is, right? And someone
Okay.
going on the internet and buying a wife from China? Tell me the difference. I need to know. They're both financial agreements.
Right. Morally, to the maker, if I've read the books correctly, there is no difference. Do I really need to use a better source? Yeah, I'm going there. All right. There's no difference whatsoever. You're purchasing the services of somebody emotionally and physically, and they are either going to take it, the money, or they are not. And I think 3 years is a while, but let's see how due process goes. Let me get that
Now-
in. But other than that, 3 years is a long time to
Mind
be going.
you,
Okay, I'll
if
cha-ching,
McMahon used his power because this girl was afraid to lose her job, and that's why she performed these things, that's a problem, right?
Yeah, I mean, how long do you have to be working, making that sort of money before what things did she need after the first year? I'm sure she was being paid. I'm sure she was getting paid money. We'll never see. Am I wrong about that? Assuming
You are
that?
not wrong about that at all.
Oh, okay. So wouldn't you think, like maybe 6 months to a year in, if you're insane enough to go along with what's been reported and do these sorts of things, wouldn't you say to yourself, maybe even after 6 months, like, you know what, I'm getting out no matter what. Yeah, I'll take a check. You're insane. Apparently this might have happened previously. Who the hell knows? I'm out of here. But, she's the freedom fighter. She's going to fight for her right to do what she's doing, and we'll have the due
received
process.
numerous calls, Jimmy, saying to me, if he did all the things that are written as a 67-page article, he should go to jail. Jail for what? For what? He didn't rape the girl. She went along. And, it's no surprise that they won't name Brock Lesnar if that's what they're pointing at. Because he's got a lawyer just waiting for that to happen.
Right.
Because that's all hearsay that this was going on. There's no proof. There's no background. Again, I'm not victim shaming here. But when you keep taking money and you keep doing things... Where's the responsibility of the second half of this situation?
Right. Well, apparently it's 100% it's your fault, Vince. So isn't that obvious at this point? It's all your fault, Vince. So now Vince is going to have to do pretty much what he's always done. Mike, why am I not sweating no matter what the situation is with Vince? I think I've made it clear as far as he is as a person, I don't effing know Vince. You know what I mean? I'm a guy who watches his product, and I've never been angry at him for what he does in his personal life. Whatever he does, he'll do it his whole life. So if you're going to start condemning him, condemn everybody.
Mike Bones out there says Lesnar should be banned for life also. Again, the title of the show is, it is not if you're innocent or guilty, it's about what you can prove your innocence. So we've got Lee on the show. Lee is more close to the fire than you and I would ever have been, right? His brother Tom went through something a person shouldn't have to go through. And we're interested in what Lee's got to say about this. Obviously, we've established on what side of the fence we're on, or at least I have, and you have been a little more mature about it, Jimmy, Mr. ESPN.
Mister, would you stop with those call letters? What are you doing over there? I think it's pretty clear, though, that I want to see Vince not be guilty. I want to see Vince, get declared whatever's right. I want to know what really happened. Are they really going to do that, or are the tabloids just going to? The tabloids have already hung the man. You know what I mean? And the people who hate him have been waiting their whole life for this. Yeah. For something like this. We finally got you! Honey, you need 3 stamps for that box. You need 3 stamps for that box I'm going to put you in over there.
The best part about this is we got Lee on, and Lee can speak much better to it because he actually met Vince McMahon. His brother went through something that needed to be in. But first, I'd like to thank the band that sings the theme song for the Monty and the Pharaoh show. Our own Jimmy Farrow, along with his partner Bart Griggs, make up the band Wisteria Hall. Wisteria Hall sings such great songs as In My Dreams, This Life, Not Far Behind, Here Comes the Rain. You can find their music on the Wisteria Hall YouTube page. Hit that like and subscribe. Go to Spotify, Apple Music, and Reverb Nation, and download some of the best music you can listen to. And if you didn't know it, you are watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty and the Pharaoh. The same Monty and the Pharaoh. Jimmy, did I tell you that John Cena follows this show?
My time is now!
Catch us on the Monty DeFaro Facebook Live page. Hear us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, the Monty DeFaro Twitch TV page. And if you're lucky enough and live in New York, you'll get the reduced version of the Lee Cole interview we're about to have on Channel 115 every Tuesday at 7 p.m. and Saturday at 11:30 a.m. and Channel 20 at 9 p.m. And if that's not enough, you have John Cena loving us. You've got Vinnie Mac loving us. You got the world loving us. We're also on something called the Intuitive Network. That's IN2, ITIVE. It's a mini Netflix. It's got documentaries. It's got movies. It's got music videos. And what else has it got, Jimmy?
It's got us. Get it.
Now. We'll be right back with Lee Cole. Sir? Manscaped? You know, have you tried the new equipment that's been sent?
I'm afraid because it says weed whacker. I'm scared.
Maven, Manscaped, what are you thinking about
Love
Manscaped, dude?
Love it.
What do you use it for?
Necessity. What don't I use it for? Put it this way. The only hair I have on my entire body is these eyebrows.
Yeah.
That you see. These caterpillars racing to the middle of my nose. That's it.
That is it.
That's all I have. And that's all I want.
That's the
So
big-
Manscaped is a must.
We were talking before the show. There's nothing worse than just hair.
Yeah.
Right? Hair on a woman, hair on a man. It's just bad.
Absolutely. And it's the one thing that the older I get, it starts growing more in unwanted areas.
Absolutely.
I hate it.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Uh-oh.
Just going to go out there.
Oh, boy.
Go for it.
You're doing a deed.
Yes.
Again, I don't want you to have to admit this because we, as men, we try not to admit this. But if you're going to go do the deed on a woman, would you rather have her be hairless or a little hair, racing stripe, or
Racing stripe.
full retro bush?
Racing stripe.
Retro Bush is out.
Yes, thank you.
Retro Bush is out.
Yeah.
I don't mind a small, well manicured landing strip. Every now and then, if it's completely, and I'm talking like baby's ass bald, then I start. Where is that pedophilia line? I don't want to wander into that.
That's
thought
very
of it like
interesting.
that.
I never thought about that. You're a smart dude. Holy shit.
So if the landing strip is clean enough for the plane to go in smoothly, you're cool with that?
If the landing strip has, like I said, well manicured,
Yeah,
you can see both sides. It's not
Like blinking lights on both sides of that
I
landing?
just don't. I don't want. I don't want the shrubbery going off into unwanted areas on that as well.
Gotcha. Oh, look what you found. Ooh.
I got to be honest though. Hey, the older I get though, I don't think I can be as
I found it! I found
Have
it!
you ever gone down there and she slowly brings down the underwear? Then
What is
retro? Just,
Absolutely.
You're like, whoa!
Wow,
Yeah,
like,
I'm
like
46,
it
of
pops
course.
out?
Do you like walk out or what do you do?
No, I muster through. I muster up the courage to get
He's
through.
a trooper. Yeah. He's a trooper. Gotta give him an A.
Not all heroes wear capes.
Yeah,
There you go.
I hear you.
There you
Listen,
go.
I couldn't
Super
say.
Bush.
I couldn't say it. Well, if you have the same beliefs as Maven does, Manscaped could help you.
Absolutely.
The weed whacker.
Absolutely.
What are you thinking?
I'm thinking that I may have to, go in a room, close the door, and hang out with the weed whacker for a little while.
Yeah, I think you're a retro guy, aren't you?
I like 70s adult films, if that's what you're getting at.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
But
only
with that,
Ron
we're going to take a
Jeremy,
quick
Batman.
commercial break, and we'll be
Anyway.
back with this wrestling icon, Maven.
We will see you in a drop kick second.
Drop kick. All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty Nefaro, only seen here out of Indie Music TV, where we're welcoming good friend, Lee Cole. Lee, thanks for coming back on the show.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You look good, man. You lost a lot of weight. We were talking before we
I sure-
started. You look fantastic.
I appreciate that. But I got to say something real quick. When did John Cena send you? When did he join the show?
Today.
Okay.
Mike, don't.
When did you
he
announce?
answered.
When did you announce I was going to be on the show?
I
Yesterday.
don't know. Earlier this week. I can't lie.
I don't see
Jimmy.
any connection. I see no connection. What's he talking about? What?
John Cena, if you're watching Lee Cole 3 podcast with James Proctor, come join us.
Lee,
Okay, I just had to
Lee,
get that out.
Mike.
Lee, by the way, did I tell you that John Cena watches Long Island's #1 pro wrestler broadcast?
My time is now.
Hey, we have Sammy Gravano.
Now.
We have Sammy Gravano watching us.
Listen, by the way,
Time is now.
kudos to you for what you've done with your channel. You have, we're going to put it up there in case anyone like and subscribe, Wrestling with the Devil, Lee Cole 3 podcast, and you also have the Mobster YouTube channel, which is doing very well. You know, Lee, before we get going here, because I think this will be a very spirited but professional conversation, because that's what we do in this country. We can disagree and have a decent conversation about it.
Let's have some fun.
You're going to join the list, you know, because when you came on our show, now you're a famous YouTuber. You see the guy doing that commercial, Maven, used to be a professional wrestler. No one really cared about him. He came on our show. Now he's got 100,000 subscribers. And these are facts. And by the way, Lee, did I tell you? John
Yes, you
Cena
did.
is also following us on X.
Time is now, mofo.
All right, Lee, before
Okay,
we get
no
at it.
more of that crap. No more of that crap.
Lee, before we
Lee,
get
you
at it.
hate this, but here it goes again. No. I just
We're
hit
getting
it.
close to the not
Wait, do you
such
think
happy.
that? I gotta ask you one quick question.
Go ahead.
Do you think that Vince shit on John Cena's head?
No.
No.
Okay.
Well, we'll talk about it. But first, I think we have to
God,
recognize
no.
your brother, Tom Cole, in the not-so-great
Yes.
anniversary. I believe in, and correct me if I'm wrong, February 14th was his suicide.
No, it's the 12th.
The 12th, okay.
Yep.
Can we share some thoughts about your brother, please?
Tom's missed. We think about him all the time, and it doesn't get easier. It gets harder because it's not. You don't have that phone call with him joking around, or it's. He was the one in our family that had the most life, the funniest one, though, and the last year of his life was horrible. It's quite obvious. But before that, he was a totally different human being. His daughters are. He has 2 daughters now in college. He has 1 daughter in high school. And I know that they miss him very much. And I wish he was here. I mean, that's pretty much all I can say.
When something like this happens, like to a Vince McMahon, who you certainly, like I said, have been close to the fire, is it hard for you to keep a clear judgment?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. It's not hard for me because Vince McMahon doesn't care about this, because these are not things that will destroy Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon had one thing in his life that was going to destroy him, and he got through that. If he got through the things with the children, I mean, you're talking something like Cherry Sandusky, but worse. He got away with that. Now you have another person coming out with this is a civil case. This is not a criminal case, and people seem to forget that. And this woman, I'm sorry, if you're laying there and some dude shits on your head, it's time to break up. And if you're going to hang around and stay around, don't expect anybody to. But Vince is stupid too, because Vince was paying her money, and he stopped paying her money. And then he decided that he wanted to get cheap at the worst time. Vince has bought a lot of things in his life on him. He is the dumbest genius that I've ever heard of.
Jimmy?
Well, Lee, let's talk about, since we're on Vince, we might as well just shoot straight to Vince, if that's cool with you. There's been the allegations, obviously. Do you feel that
Vince is already guilty in the public's eye, and that due process is almost like pointless to the public. Like, let's say somehow he's declared innocent of all of this. What do you think about that, and what the reaction will be? Is his legacy destroyed?
Yes, without a doubt, his legacy is destroyed. But I think that the worst thing is the difference now is that you have a battle for his empire. He's getting old. He's getting, he's breaking down. You got, he screwed over his children. He came back. He broke there's a lot of anger running around that family. So I'm sure there's a couple of them that don't mind this happening because one, Daddy left the show. He's not there no more. And I feel like he doesn't have them as allies like he used to have them.
For those who would challenge you and say that Miss Grant took money and seemed to be a willing participant for not weeks, not months, but apparently years, do you completely, what is your opinion on her? Do you completely side with her before the due process? I mean,
I don't side with her not even a
that?
tiny little bit. I don't side with her
Okay.
not even a tiny little bit.
Okay, so how do you feel about her?
I feel like she's pissed because someone stopped paying her tons of money.
Okay.
It's like you said before that she wasn't the R word, and she got into a lot of situations, but she stayed in them. She was part of his life. It's obvious that something happened. They broke up. He paid her, but he was stupid to stop paying her. And then she came back. I mean, this is really Vince's fault. All he had to do was continue paying her, and it would have never gotten to this point. But for some reason, Vince got cocky.
Can I ask
Vince
you, Lee,
got cocky.
do you?
Yep.
Let me ask you this: do you believe that Vince McMahon, for this case, all if it's possible to answer this question, please try. All personal experience aside, for this case alone, do you feel that if Vince is found guilty, that he should go to jail for something like this? With all things considered, this isolated case, what do you think?
Absolutely, unequivocally, no.
Okay, interesting.
But I believe he
Tell
should
me
be in
why.
prison for the rest of his life.
Wait a minute. Okay, so you
Vince
believe
should be
that
in
he should
prison
go
for
to
the
jail?
things that he did, for the things he's
In the
done in
past.
his life and gotten away with. Yes,
In
the
the
past,
past,
not
you're talking
this.
about.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough, Mike.
So, Lee, elaborate a little more. So we understand that not that you're siding. We have a moral issue here with Vince in his present situation. What things do you think Vince should have went to jail for?
For knowing that he had men in his company that were taking advantage of young boys, knowing that Mel Phillips was had a problem with the boys and firing him and hiring him back, knowing that Terry Garvin had a problem with boys, knowing that Pat Patterson was sexually abusing his workers, going around licking his lips and crotch, and he had no problem with that. A matter of fact, he wanted Pat Patterson to come back even after he did what he did. And anything that has to do with that case that he did not get, and it's not even a case because of the fact that it was settled. But the fact of the matter is, he is guilty as hell for what he did. He looked over an empire that was going after children, taking children across state lines for the purpose of working, paying children, 13, 14-year-old kids to set up rings. I just read an FBI file where they've seen a video. They actually have a video of Mel doing that stuff that people accused him of doing. But then they decided that and the feds decided we wanted to go for the steroids. The hell with the kids. We'll do the steroid thing because that's a lot easier to win.
So
and they lost that too.
For people who are wrestling fans that never got in, like, I'm surprised that people are still out there that don't know about the Ring Boy scandal, which, your brother was clearly the main focus of this. Can you go a little deeper to what you're talking about with Mel Phillips and Pat Patterson and your brother. You know, again, we've done the show, we've discussed it. Your sister was in studio, very wonderful, wonderful lady. But for the fans that really don't have a clue what the Ring Boy scandal was about, can you give quick bullet points about how your brother got involved and what eventually happened to him?
Yes. Okay. So what my brother, we come from a broken family. We had an alcoholic mother or father that was never around. What Mel Phillips used to do is he used to prey off kids from broken families, 13, 14 years old in general. And he would go and find those boys, become like a father figure to them, and start taking slow advantage of them because he had a foot fetish. And then they would pick out of the group of guys. They would bring in tons of kids, but they would only pick out a couple kids. And like Epstein, they always had one person that they would have like a kid, one that went by the name of Mrs. Phillips, that would go out and look for these boys. And then these boys would come back. And so Mel got his jollies off with these kids with his foot fetish. But what he did is he worked it up the ladder to Terry Garvin. Terry Garvin liked the boys when they turned 16 and only certain ones. Terry Garvin, Mel Phillips would tell Tom that Terry liked him because Tom played hard to get. And when the time came, Terry Garvin came on to Tom. Tom said no. Tom got fired. And then a couple years later, they brought Tom back again to work in the warehouse. They promised him that he would not go through that issue again. And once again, Terry Garvin offered him, lied to him and said, come to my house. My family's there. Tom thought the family was there, got to the house, and it's just Terry Garvin. And once again, Terry Garvin's making his move on my brothers. My brother goes out and sleeps in the truck. They take him back to the warehouse the following day, and they fire him. Mel Phillips said to him, his exact words, "You know how it goes around here." And Tom said to him, well, because I wouldn't sleep with him, I'm getting fired. And Mel said yes. That's what happened. And then Mel Phillips, they knew that Mel Phillips had a problem with boys, and they fired him. And then a couple months later, Vince brought him back. So that tells me that Vince brought him back because Mel had something on him. And then so he comes back. And those guys, when my brother's lawsuit came out, Mel Phillips, Terry Garvin, and Pat Patterson all stepped down. They fired Pat Patterson eventually came back because my brother only wanted his job back, and they gave him his job back. But once again, they gave him the same old harassment, they were having him sign contracts without lawyers being present. They had me arrested. They had our best friend, my brother and my best friend. At that time, I had a felony warrant, turned me in, and I was arrested.
But Lee, I don't want you to go through this so fast, right? So I'm going to challenge you with some questions that in the first two times we spoke about it, kind of, and even with your sister, some of the things weren't answered. So I'm asking you to try to do your best to answer this. At the second time, was your brother, at the second time, if your brother was sexually, had sex with Mel or Garvin, was he of age?
At that time, yes. He was 19 years old.
The next question.
What does that have to do with anything?
What? No, I'm trying to lead to something. I'm not saying that's okay. I'm just trying to establish something here.
That's like saying a woman turns 19, it's okay to sexually harass her.
No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that if I'm attracted to a woman or I'm attracted to you and I approach you, right, and say, hey, Lee, I really like you, and, I'd like to go out with you, that's not really offensive, right? It's like I'm attracted, I'm approaching you. When you use your job, your brother wants to keep his job and you're using that power, that's a different story. I get it. But the first time we spoke, I felt like your brother was more upset that he couldn't believe that another man was hitting on him. And he was, your brother was a strapping young man, a macho man. Was that the issue? Or did it go further than you guys have ever told?
Well, we know things that we don't talk about, and those are very personal things that we won't talk about because there's no sense in talking about it. But the fact of the matter that you work for a company and the company harasses you, and then not only do they harass you, they tell you if you have sex with us, you can keep your job. If you don't have sex with us, we're going to fire you. Mm-hmm. How hard is that to understand?
No, that's a problem. That's a problem. But just like Miss Grant, right? This was
Big
going
difference.
on, but then you guys went to WrestleMania. Your brother was in the Donahue audience. Like this,
Yes.
there's this miss here, right? It's like, why didn't your brother like get the F out of there? I'm out of here. Just like Miss Grant
Okay.
should have said, I got to get out of here.
Okay, I can answer that.
Sure.
One was a young man that wanted his job back. He was always in the world of wrestling. Vince McMahon came along and talked to him. Vince McMahon said to Tom, I know what you went through, Tom. I was molested too. We're sorry this happened in your company. In our company, we will give you back pay. And that's exactly what they did. They gave him back his pay that he lost from the time that he left the company after Terry Garvin went after him. And then when when they went back to the company, okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I was just saying, okay, keep going.
Okay, so when he goes back to the company, he gets harassed continuously. They bring him into office to sign contracts. He doesn't want to bring Pat Patterson back, but he has a contract put in front of him. He starts signing contracts, and then he gets fed up with the contracts. And when he doesn't want to sign a contract against me, they basically said that myself and Phil Munchnick, who I did not know personally, plotted together to bring down the WWE. And that was in their lawsuit against the New York Post. My brother knew that was bullshit and refused to sign those papers. When Tom wanted to leave the building, they locked him in. They wouldn't let Tom had to go down by the security area and cause a ruckus in order for them to take him out of the building. That's what these people are, evil bullies. That's what they are. And these were sexual predators that were working for them. How much more has to be said? You cannot compare this woman to those boys or those kids, because those kids were groomed from the age of 13. How many of those kids do you think were actually molested? How about Mrs. Phillips, who was a young boy, and they teased them and called them Mrs. Phillips? How about the fact that Pat Patterson would walk in front of my brother and lick his lips and stare at his crotch? Or he was known to grab ass cheeks and crotches, or leave keys. And if guys wanted to advance in the company, they go up in the room. They would go up in the room. And a lot of guys went up in the room with him because Pat was a catcher, not a pitcher. That's what you're talking about. If this happened in any company in America, that company would have been put out of business. Any company. But it wasn't, because it was considered wrestling, entertainment. And then when Tom's lawsuit came out, when Tom decided to settle, I wasn't in the room. I didn't have a choice. Tom came back to me and I told him, you made a mistake. Then my brother started crying and gave me a hug. And he said to me, Lee, I just want this to be over with. That's it. And for the person that said, oh, Lee Cole, you got $20,000 from Vince McMahon. Yeah, I got $20,000 from Vince McMahon. You know how much money I spent on this up to that point? You know, and people just don't get it. $20,000. Tom was sitting on $1 million lawsuit. His lawyer, one of his lawyers was so upset when he settled. He was so upset. He said, he looked at me and says, I can't believe that your brother just did that. But I had to accept it because it was Tom's lawsuit. And Tom gave me a hug and told me that he wanted his job back. At that moment, I said, okay, Tom, that's it. I disagreed with everything, but it wasn't my lawsuit. It was Tom's.
Lee, I got two questions. Was Tom, what made Tom
tell me the real difference, and I know that there's a lot of real differences, but the difference, the one thing that I can't shake right now between Tom and this woman is that how is this still happening then? If what you say is all, and you lived through it, so it's what you say. How is this still happening in this day and age? Like, I would tend to believe that if we had the internet and the reach we had back then when this was happening, you could be very well in the same position right now, if you understand what I'm getting at. What makes this still go on after all these years, if this is the case?
Well, the cowards. I mean, you got the wrestling sheets. Those people are cowards. You got people like Irv Munchnick that attacked my brother. He went on Hannibal and was mocking my brother. My brother called me up crying, saying, "Why is Irv talking this way about me?" And that was a year before his death. These men, Hannibal, when my brother died, you know what Hannibal said? Hannibal says, "What? Tom Cole's dead. This is all over." And he said it so nasty. And you have these people around us. Their bread and butter is based on the WWF. They don't want to see the WWE. They didn't want to see the WWE go back down. If they all got together back there at that time and did the right thing, this would have been over. That company would have been dissolved. That's what would have happened, and that's what should have happened.
Do you think that Vince McMahon is just this egotistical guy who thinks, and he tests the waters to try to get away with everything? Let's be fair here. I know Vince was running the company. I know it's his people were doing this, but Vince wasn't, he was in charge. Yes, he should be blamed for what happened to your brother and those other children. I agree 100%. But do you really? No, I do.
But do you really? See, and I'm just being straight with you. Mm-hmm. I've always got like a thing with you where you kind of defended Pat Patterson. It seems like you really don't understand what it means for children to be groomed. It's like sometimes I feel like you're not being serious enough.
So that's a great point. So I'll answer your question. I think I had an advantage over your family, right? From what I know from knowing you, you guys were from a broken home. You had some issues. Tom was left on the street. I had parents that taught me when to get out and know the right and what's wrong. And you didn't have that advantage. And I'm not trying to be insulting.
No, it's not insulting. I was a thief from the time I was 5 years old because that's right. How I ate.
So when I look at that situation, like Jimmy was saying, it doesn't compute. Because if I was in that situation, I would just be gone. Like, I recognize good and evil. And I have trouble when people seem to not recognize, like, it's hard for me to say good and evil.
Are you saying that 13, 14-year-old boy should recognize evil?
Yes, I do. I'm not
That's
saying
ridiculous.
I'm not saying that you can't be groomed. Go ahead.
Then you don't really understand the streets.
No, probably not.
Well, I'm sorry. There's evil. My brother was very street smart, but that's what they preyed on. And they preyed on the fact that these are kids that had dreams. These are uneducated kids that came from bad families. They didn't want to go home at night because their mother was drunk or beating them. Or they had to stay out in the street and their mother wouldn't let them in the house. And they were out in the street all the time. When my brother left home, he was 13 years old. My mother he just disappeared one day, and then he left home and he went to his girlfriend's house and he slept in her closet for a month until the father caught him in the room. He had no place to stay. He had to stay in his girlfriend's closet. I mean, that's real life. You grew up in the streets of Yonkers, a very tough area where we grew up too. It was no cakewalk, and these are street kids that are looking for. Mel Phillips knew exactly how to play these street kids. He told them what they wanted to hear. These are kids that dropped out of middle school. They didn't drop out of high school. They dropped out of middle school, and every one of them lived an abusive lifestyle, and they had nothing. They had nothing at all.
But so then I'm going to
Lee,
challenge you
during
with this. Where's the ownership? At 15 years old, you're a semi-adult. You have to own your actions, Lee. Like you went to jail. You have to own that. You made that mistake, not Vince McMahon, not Jimmy Farrow, not myself.
Are you saying a 13, 14-year-old should own? I don't get it.
Lee,
I don't get what you're saying. Listen, I don't get what you're saying. You got those kids. Most of those kids that my brother grew up with are dead. They died of drug overdoses or they died in prison. Most of my friends that I grew up with in the streets are dead because they had no leadership. When you're a child, a young man, and you're being, you've got to start being raised at a young age. 3, 4, 5 years old. When we were 4 or 5 years old, we had no clothes. We were jumping and diving in for our clothing into Salvation Army boxes. Big difference. And that's the real world. That's how a lot of kids live.
So then earlier on in the show, we spoke about this woman. So then you're legitimately speaking at a school there because she could have came from a broken home. She had daddy problems and she fell into this, and she was groomed. And this is how this situation happens then.
No. See, here's where you're making the mistake. You're taking pedophilia and you're to a relationship that went wrong. Right? You're talking about adults having relationships that something bad happened between the two, and I'm talking about children. How can you compare those two?
Well, first of all, I'm not, because I want to make sure this is clear. At no point did anyone, and you gotta back me on this. Not you, not your sister. The story has been, we know stuff, we don't want to share it. So I've never heard that there was any actual things that happened, just approaches and uncomfortableness and this and that. So it's hard for me to be empathetic because I'm not exactly sure what did happen. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. You know what it is? You're like a lot of those other guys in the world of wrestling. You don't want to hear that your little empire is as guilty as hell. That's what the problem is. And that's the problem with wrestling.
I don't have a Porsche sitting outside. It's not my empire. I haven't really said much during this.
No. You guys have two different opinions. This is always like blame Bruno.
Oh, we all do. God bless
America. Blame this one, blame that one. How about if we blame the guy that ran the company? How about if we blamed his wife who covered up thousands of cover-ups done by his wife? This isn't just Vince McMahon. This is Linda McMahon, too. How about that piece of shit lawyer, Jerry McDivitt? Fuck you, Jerry McDivitt. I hope you hear that. How about that piece of shit? That quote, when my brother left that company and went with his children, and he was raising his family, Jerry McDivitt called my brother all of a sudden out of the blue and became his friend. Why would a lawyer pretend to be his friend? Because they always feared him. They feared that what happened. They knew they could never prove that Tom lied about anything. They could say, I lied. I'm a fucking liar. But they could never say that Tom lied.
During the whole ordeal that your brother went through, did he have anywhere to go? To get the hell out of there and to go? Did he have anybody he could go to?
Yeah, the foster care system. That's where I went. I went to the foster care system, and when I was 15, 16 years old, and the foster care system guy was trying to hit on me. That's where you go. Okay. You go to the foster care system.
Okay.
Back of New York, that's the only place you have to go if you're a kid. Nobody wants a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid from a broken family. They wind up in Spofford or in the foster care system like I did.
Yeah. Well, just to make it clear from both our ends, myself and Mike,
We clearly look. We're smart guys. We know the difference between pedophilia and this particular case.
Absolutely.
You know, we absolutely do. So I don't know. I don't know what happened there. You know, we totally get that part of it.
Listen,
right?
we're having a spirited debate,
and it's all good.
Look at it.
Right?
Yeah, and it's all good. Unfortunately.
Mike's a good guy. Mike's a good guy. We're just having a conversation.
So like a conversation. One of the comments, I believe, one of your loyal listeners, Lee, said, Mike Bone says anyone who defends Vince McMahon should be canceled.
What do you think about that, Lee? How you like that?
What do you think about that, Lee?
I think that Vince McMahon should have been canceled a long time ago. I think someone should have taken him behind a barn and put him down like a mangy, nasty dog. How about that?
And that's fair enough.
Along with his wife and his lawyer. How about all three of them? They were evil people. Evil people. Linda McMahon went to when my brother went for unemployment insurance. Linda McMahon showed up. And the judge was so shocked that she was there. He was literally pissed, and gave my brother his the unemployment. That's how evil these people are.
Lee, I gotta get this in because I really do think that this is the real gist of what troubles Mike and I as longtime fans of Vince's product. Okay.
Yes, I am. Vince is a genius.
Right. What troubles us is you ain't kidding. Oy, okay, I totally get that one. What troubles us is that, and I have to ask you this: what makes yourself say, okay, despite all the things that you've said about Vince, and you know what, coming from your heart and soul, I'm sure it's 1,000% true. But what makes someone like yourself go to WrestleMania knowing this must have been impossible for you, knowing what Vince has supposedly done to your brother? What makes Janelle Grant stay for, oh my God, 3 years? What makes you, okay, I'll put it your way that you'll totally get. What makes you dance with the devil, even if it's for a second or a WrestleMania show?
I had no choice. Listen, I had no choice. I had to dance with the devil. But by the time that I figured the devil out, I did the right thing. Vince McMahon hated me, told everybody that he hated Lee Cole because I seen right through him. As for WrestleMania, my brother wanted me to go. That's why I went to WrestleMania. It was the first time he was going to be that far away from. This was right after the lawsuit, and my brother wanted me to go because when he went into the ring and stuff, people used to laugh at him, say, "There's the ring boy that was molested and all that stuff." Because my brother asked me to go, and a matter of fact, that's the only reason that Linda McMahon gave me those tickets is because my brother asked her to.
Why do you think that Miss Grant in this particular current case danced with the devil for 3 years? What's your thoughts?
I don't believe a thing I don't believe a thing she's saying. See, you guys keep bringing this. You guys keep bringing Miss Grant into it, but I already told you that Miss Grant. It's obvious that which would happen here. She got $1 million payoff. Vince got a little cocky. Stopped paying her, so she's coming back, and now he's going to pay more than ever.
Is that why you think he did it, or did he catch wind that she was lawyering up already and she was going to start making moves to get out of that NDA anyway, and then pissed him off? Do you think that's the possibility?
It could be a possibility because I don't know. Okay. Because one thing I've learned about the people, the adults in this have always been very suspect. And that includes from back in '92 when you had all those guys coming forward, they all coming out of the closet, and they none of them got anything in the end, and they turned out to be frauds. The one person back then that did get something was my brother. He got his job back, and they tried to work with him, but they didn't try to work with him to help him. They wanted him to sign contracts to bring Pat Patterson back and save their company. If Tom does not come back the WWF is out of business. They would have lost their toy contract because of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
They were done. They were done.
So
Why
I
do you
want to
think
make
Vince
something clear on this thing. We have two scenarios here, right? What happened to your brother and those other children is a completely different scenario that we're living in right now. Here's why we're talking about both, though, because they kind of intertwine.
Yeah.
Take away what's happening right now. That's not happening yet. The first, when we spoke, Lee, I used to say, hey, look, I understand Vince is in charge. Sometimes you hire people that are just evil and they do crazy stuff and you have to handle it. And then, you brought up the Bruno Sammartino thing because I did feel that way. I felt that if they were wrestlers that knew this was going on and someone like that had the power of a Bruno Sammartino or a superstar Billy Graham, they should have jumped in and helped these children. I still feel that to this day, even though they've passed on. But
yeah, but I understand what you're saying, but see, you blame everybody but the people that did it.
You got to
right?
listen. Give me 1 second.
You blame everybody but the people. You blame the wrestlers.
Yeah, but
Lee, you have questions about. But let me finish. You have questions about 14-year-old kids not being able to say, "Don't do that." It's like you're blaming everybody but the people that did it.
Lee, the whole point of the Bruno and Graham deal is that their word and weight in the locker room and to Vince back when they really counted, they could have put a damn stop to this because they had that kind of weight. Yeah, Vince is the main source. What do you think? We're blind? We're not blind, brother. Believe me. Okay, but
none of those wrestlers had that power back then. You know better than that. None of those wrestlers had the power. Those wrestlers were treated like shit. They were lucky they were working.
What you're looking for is what we seem to not even have today, and there's no balls coming from the people who could have balls. That's how I see that, okay? If you're a captain of the team, you don't let that shit happen.
Okay, how about these wrestling guys? How about these wrestling guys with these blogs and all these tough ass wrestling guys that jumped on the bandwagon?
Right.
When Vince is in trouble, they go after him. But when Vince ain't in trouble, they kiss his ass. How about those guys? Right. How about the guys like Herb Munchnick and Dave Meltzer and those clowns?
Lee, let me connect the dots here.
Agreed.
So we have the pre-Grant thing and other things that have went on. In the scenario with your brother, there certainly was blame for Vince McMahon because he was running the corporation. He should have known what was going on. He should have protected people that worked for him. He was hiring people were hiring underage. You're 100% correct. But I thought there was a lot of blame to go around for everybody for that scenario. But let me finish. Considering the morality that we're seeing, right? All three of us agree that this woman was an active participant in whatever was going on there. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
But the morality of it, that Vince McMahon would think that it's okay to do these things, then brings you back to what happened with your brother. And then it makes sense. Then you turn around and say, you know what? Vince isn't that innocent. Because if he's capable of doing this, he's certainly capable of hiding this. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah, well, here's what you got to do with Vince McMahon. He's done 1,000 things so evil that we could name. It's obvious the man's an evil prick. Okay? It's obvious. But the only reason they're going after him now is because of his age and the fact that he's weak. That's why they're going, this ain't the same Vince McMahon. If this was Vince McMahon from 10 years ago, they wouldn't be having this easy battle. And you know that.
Lee, is this Joe Paterno? Because that's what it feels like to me. Is this like a little bit of the Joe Paterno,
yeah, that's
sad ending and off to the sunset he goes?
I wouldn't compare Joe Paterno. I would not compare Joe Paterno to Vince McMahon. Joe Paterno did something stupid. Vince McMahon does evil things.
Right, but
You
to
know?
me, the connection though is that Joe Paterno, who was obviously the overlord of Penn State. Let's face facts, and you know this anyway.
Yes.
Paterno was there for almost a half a century. Okay, he's the Vince McMahon of that situation, and those were young guys. Okay, they're not 13 or 14, but they're 18 or 19 playing college ball, and he was overseeing that. And eventually, the shit floated to the top of the pool. Sandusky got wiped out with the poop, and then off went the legend, and gone was the legacy. Is that what we're seeing here? Because that's what it feels like.
No,
in my personal,
no. You can compare it maybe 5%, 10%, but you're.
Yeah, I'm
you're
saying there's
at
something there that connects the two. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
It doesn't. You can measure however big you want, but it's weird. It's there.
You know what? You know
Me.
what? I'll compare them when Vince McMahon goes down like Jerry Sandusky. Then I'll compare them.
Right. Well, at the end of the day, if it soothes you at all, and it probably will, Joe Paterno at the end of the day left the very thing that he was basically born to do, was left in shame, and died. And honestly, I think that that's what you're probably going to see with Mr. McMahon. And that's just my personal feeling on that.
Vince McMahon should be compared to Jerry Sandusky, not Joe Paterno. That's
Right.
just my
Okay.
opinion.
All right. That's
You know why?
fair,
Because
but I
look
mean,
at all the
that's your opinion.
Look at all the sexual things. Look at all the sexual things. I was sitting in a car with Vince McMahon, and we were driving. And I remember one thing he said to me. He looked right at me and said, "I don't mind losing this because I'll get it back again." You know, that's who Vince McMahon is. They're getting the fragile, old, weak Vince McMahon right now. That's what they're getting. And
Right.
this is his family's behind this. I'll guarantee you his family's behind this.
What do you think the end result will be? What do you think the end result will be in the court case? You know, just your guess.
I think it will be settled out of court.
I
Okay.
agree.
Okay.
Money talks.
Here's-
I mean, if he comes, and says, "I'll give you $50 million to go away," and it's not even going to be him; it's going to be somebody in the family. It might already be worked out. I believe that the family's involved with this. I believe that the family knows what's going to happen here too. I mean,
So,
come on,
Lee-
Vince McMahon made his family hate him.
So, Lee, considering everything you spoke about, should Triple H, Paul Levesque, or anybody that was close to the situation be terminated also? Because if we go back and discuss about things in the past that people should be accountable for what other people have done, you got to be sure that Triple H knew what was going on. Should he now be terminated? Should Shawn Michaels be terminated? Should that whole group be terminated?
Well, Triple
Better
H
yet,
and Stephanie should be terminated for the woman that hung herself in 2019. That's what they should be terminated for. You can find plenty of reasons to terminate these evil people in this country, in this company. Stephanie McMahon is all her dad. Let's remember what she did to that poor woman. That poor woman hung herself and had a child and died in 2000. Morano was her name in 2019. Let's not forget about that, because Stephanie McMahon wouldn't let her go to school to learn how to fall because she said, "No, you have to get your ass in the ring." How about when they broke up with China? When he broke up with China, then China went to the office. Even though she was still a big draw, she was fired right on the spot. These people are all a bunch of evil scumbags.
Well, again, Lee.
Think about what happened to China. She was in her prime. She was a big thing with that company. And because the daughter wanted to bang Triple H, they just told her, "No, you're fired. Get out of here. Bye-bye. No money, nothing."
Yeah, but
And where's
Lee,
China?
I totally get
China's
that.
dead.
Lee, I totally get that. But doesn't China have a choice at that point to not do porn and not have bad friends and make awful choices? They couldn't watch her 24 hours after they let her go.
Those awful choices came after this happened to her. How many people in this world get driven to do things? Just think about all the money that woman. They couldn't even have the decency to say to her, "Well, we're going to keep you for the next 3 months. No, they fired her the same day because Stephanie McMahon was running around and she was horny. That's why she got fired.
A lot of
thought they
things,
got
lot
married
of
at that
things going
drive-thru
on,
on
man,
Raw,
in the
so.
wrestling world. Lee, I
it
really
is.
appreciate your candidness and
Me too.
you challenging.
And you know what's funny, Mike? You know
ahead,
what's
bud.
funny, Mike? It's always been like this with all the territories and everything. If you look at, the Von Erichs and everything, it's
Yeah.
always been evil going on in these territories. This is just Vince McMahon.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think that the chickens have finally come home to roost, and this will in the end, Vince isn't going to jail for this, but do you think you'll get some vindication? Because certainly the legacy of Vincent Kennedy McMahon will now be soiled forever and ever and ever. What Jimmy even said about Paterno. Do you get any gratitude that will be the eventual ending to Vince McMahon?
I just think that old age, he was stupid to come back, and this is what he gets for he damaged his own legacy. Nobody's to blame but Vince McMahon.
Are you happy about it?
I'd be happy about it if he faced justice for what he should face justice for,
Right.
not for the things that he shouldn't face justice for. I'll give you an example. In the mob world, you got guys sitting in prison that was set up for crimes they didn't commit, and they're in prison for those crimes. And they shouldn't be in prison for those crimes. They should be in prison for other crimes, maybe. But this is the same thing. It's like, okay, I'm not going to say that he should go down on just this. I'd rather see him go down for the things that I don't even consider this a crime. This is a civil suit
Right.
between a man and a woman. That's what, if a woman lets a man's head, there's something mentally wrong with that woman.
So basically what you're saying is if this was a standalone with Vince McMahon, you would be like, whatever.
I'd back him 100%.
Right. But considering everything that's gone on in the past, that's what leads to this absolute anger. And, again, Lee, we've known each other a long time. I totally get where you're coming from, okay? And I totally understand your anger and angst. But I also believe that even what Jimmy was saying, people have to stand up for other people, regardless what the outcome it is. So even if you feel a wrestler has no power, where's the morality? And if you don't have that morality, you're just as guilty as the people that don't have the morality because you're thinking about yourself and your wallet.
So you just named half the people that have anything to do with wrestling, and you can start with the people that run these wrestling blogs and magazines and sites. Those are we could start with those people. Those are the worst because I dealt with those people. The things that those people used to say about my brother and about me, and they didn't even know us. Those are the people. You want to know who I resent more than those people right there. And then it goes to Vince McMahon. Listen, Vince McMahon is an old man. You could just tell by the way he was moving lately that he doesn't have long for this world. He abused his bodies with steroids and got way too big and everything. But I can tell people this. I met Vince McMahon. I was alone with Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon had charisma like no person I've ever seen in my life to this day. When I met him at the NBC Towers, I remember him getting out of the car, and the beautiful Elizabeth was with him. Nobody even cared Elizabeth was with him. All they geared their eyes on were Vince McMahon. He was this perfect specimen of a man. Smelt good, smart man, dressed good, handsome, everything going in the world. But on top of that, he was also evil. But I couldn't see that in that man. I didn't see that.
Lee, let me ask you this question, right? We spoke about, the broken family. Obviously, you growing up, you had issues with your family. Vince McMahon also had issues with his family, and his life wasn't great in the beginning either, right? Vince Sr. was this guy that he didn't know. He didn't get along with his mother. He was sent to military school. Does he get a break for the way he grew up? And the problems that he Was it, give me 1 second. Back then, mental health was not a big deal. Jimmy and I speak about it all the time. We're getting better as a country, realizing that people need mental health, right? And they need to be helped. Does Vince McMahon at least get a break for that he came from a broken home?
Okay. Good enough question. Vince McMahon get a break? Vince McMahon lived in a mansion. He had tons of cars. He has $1 billion in the bank. He inherited the company from his father. Sure, he built it. He's responsible for making it what it is. But he was given that opportunity. He was handed something to build. So no matter what you say about his father and him, at least his father gave him something to build from. But the fact that we're supposed to feel sorry for a billionaire, I mean, that had everything that a man could want. He lost it, got it back. He lost it, got it back. Sure. But I'm not going to feel sorry for the things he had. How many people would like to live the life of Vince McMahon?
Yeah, I don't feel
sorry
for Vince. I don't feel sorry for Vince. I just want to make sure. I don't feel sorry for Vince.
You don't want to see him go down. You don't want to
to
see him go down for something. Yeah, I understand. You don't want to see him go down for something that he shouldn't go down for. I can understand that.
Yeah.
Because in the mob world, it's the same thing. There's a guy named Stephen Crea who's in prison. Sure, he's a bad man. He's done bad things, but he's in prison now for things he didn't do. And
Lee, I gotta ask you this. Go back to Lee, Abe. Show Lee for a second again, please, for me. I find it interesting. Sit behind you, and you got your mobster channel, and you're having a great time with that. And I got to ask you this: behind you is a picture of Al Capone. Compare Al Capone to Vince McMahon. Are they on the same level of evil? Just curious, because you clearly dig gangsters. So explain to me, please, the difference between Al Capone and Vince McMahon. This is going to be great.
I don't dig gangsters.
No, they're cool. What do you mean?
No, I dig history. I like history of any kind. I like history of any kind. There's, you could talk about Genghis Khan. You could talk about some of the most evil men that ever existed. But if you go to HBO and they play about all the Caesars and stuff, most of them were evil men. But people watch that on HBO.
Right.
I like history. I like history.
So is McMahon a Capone, a Caesar, an Alexander the Great, just in his own universe of things? What is Vince McMahon then? Is he one of them?
I think Vince McMahon's much more evil than your average gangster.
Okay.
Because
Mike,
he was set.
Like that?
Well, this is what I think. You want to talk about seriously? Vince McMahon's a billionaire. He doesn't think about Lee. He doesn't think about Jimmy. He doesn't think about Mike. No. Right?
Absolutely
So in the end,
not.
this is a conversation about morality and the state of this country, how we let children be put into a situation where they could be taken advantage of without helping. Yeah. And in the end result, Lee lost his brother. And no one cares.
My family lost a great human being.
Right.
You know what? I look at it this way: if anybody in my family should have won, it should have been me, not Tom.
Well, don't say that, Lee. Come on, that's not.
No, but it's the truth. Tom was a good man with 3 beautiful daughters, and he lost his life, and they lost a father. Me, if something happened to me, it was okay. My son's grown up. I don't have 3 beautiful daughters. The world can handle that a little bit better. It's much more sad with Tom. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well,
from what I can tell, it looks like Tom's living on through you anyway, bro, because you're doing good. You look great, by the way. I don't know where the other half of you went, but apparently, how much do you weigh now?
Well, I'm in my 200s for the first time in a long time, and
freaking awesome.
I feel great, and last time I was tired, I was huffing and puffing when Mike was coming at me. This time I was a little more in shape.
So, on a serious note, much respect to all three, both of you, that we could have a candid conversation. And this was not an easy conversation. This is a man who lost his brother, who has a lot of anger, which God knows how angry I would be. and
Ugh.
he's respectful. You know, we're friends, and it's great to see that in this world where people throw darts at each other and try to destroy each other, we can have a conversation and actually discuss it like adults. And, you know, Lee, you know, utmost respect for you, always have. You're a great guy.
I appreciate that. Same here. I think you guys are awesome. You guys have always been fair with me. You brought me on. It's just like an anniversary show.
Yep.
I'm sure next year when I have 100,000 subs, I'll be back and I'll be teasing you about how small your show is.
Well,
and I wonder who's
you're,
going to.
You're right. You're
next,
right.
Next
You're-
time.
Wait,
next time
Don't you make me start teasing you about how small you are. You know what is, but those pictures are never mind.
Lee, 1 second.
Hey,
Before,
when
I
I
want to
come back
promote your
next year-
channel. But before that, I
Okay.
just wanted to tell you something. John Cena follows us.
Oh, my time is now, mofo.
But I got something to tell you guys. I
Go
got
ahead.
something to tell you guys you're not going to believe.
Good.
Next year at this time, when I'm ready to come on this show for another anniversary show, the day before, The Rock is going to come and into your Twitter.
Lee, let me tell you something. You deserve everything that you've gotten. You've got a great following. Both your channels are excellent. Jimmy and I are big fans, always have big fans. And you know what? It's good to see good things happen to good people. Can you promote both your channels, Lee?
Yes, our mob channel is Lee Cole 3 with James Proctor. Just put in Lee Cole 3 and sub to the channel. It's really good. Our wrestling channel we kind of stayed away from, but now we're going to put a lot of effort into it. I started getting back into it in the last couple weeks, and that's Wrestling with the Devil, a Lee Cole 3 podcast. And myself and my partner James Proctor, we do both of these channels. And without James, James has helped me. He settled me down. He stopped me from being a mean old man.
Lee, again, I want to thank you again. You're a great man, and you know what? Prayers to your family. We here at the show remember your brother every year at this time, and it's a shame that that no one was able to step in at that point. Again, all positive stuff to you, Lee. You're a great man, and we again really appreciate you being on the show.
Yep, and I appreciate you guys having me here. I'd like to say to everybody in the chat, you were very respectful tonight, you know, and I appreciate that.
What, am I not respectful every time you're on the show? Man, you're giving me a bad reputation.
Well, what I mean is sometimes you have people that come in and say horrible things. Like when I first came into this, people used to say, Lee, you took money and your brother died. That would be one of the things. But they don't understand what a lawsuit's about, you know, when you're up there negotiating. And my brother Tom is the one that told Vince. My brother Lee has been with me from the very beginning, and he needs to get $20,000, and that's for my brother. And that's just type of. Tom was a very kind-hearted person, had the sweetest heart in the world. Tough kid, black belt in jiu-jitsu, very tough kid, but you know, he lived a very. The last year of his life was a very sad year because he was very sick and just heartbroken.
Well, again, we'll be remembering him on the 12th. Lee, thanks again for joining us. Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. We'll see you. Well, we'll talk.
This was awesome, guys. I really liked it.
You're the man, brother. Thank you.
And just so people know, I tell people, I told Mike, I want you to come at me hard. You know, I don't like going on and get softball questions. That's why I really like this show. This is the type of show that I like. You know, if people are feeling things inside, they got to let them out.
I agree.
Thank
and
you,
letting
Kevin.
them out
Thank
like
you.
gentlemen. Thanks, Lee. You're the man.
Yes. Take care, guys.
All right,
I appreciate it.
God bless.
Wow.
Jimmy, bit dicey.
Wow. Oh, my God.
Listen.
Congratulations, Mike. That might have been the most uncomfortable, and I'm saying this in a positive way. I'm actually pleased with this. That was one of the most uncomfortable interviews I think we've ever had to do because of subject matter, not because of the person we were talking with.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Honestly, though,
I'm
Jimmy,
French fried.
before
I'm
we
French
go,
fried, bro.
Before we go,
Wow.
though, I was watching your
Yeah.
face when I was having my back and forth with Lee.
Yeah.
I felt like you kind of didn't agree with what I was saying, and I wanted to ask you,
What?
and it's okay
No.
if you didn't, you know.
No, not at all. Because I can actually tell you, as like per Mr. Spock, what was happening at that given moment, Captain, is that he wasn't getting the fact that we were not trying to connect the crimes themselves,
Right.
being pedophilia.
Right.
And this particular civil suit case, when he was thinking we were connecting the two, I was waiting for that to play out because I was like, I got to wait for, everything is timing, especially when you're doing what we're doing.
Right.
So basically, I was waiting it out to make that clear. And then once we connected with a little bit more of why we're saying what we're saying, and he understood what we were saying.
Yeah, like when he said when I was
difficult
comparing,
subject matter.
Yeah, when he said I was like comparing the two being the same, I was like, no,
Right,
no,
I'm
no,
like,
no,
yeah.
no. I am not doing
What?
that.
Wait a minute.
Here's the thing.
It's
I
hilarious.
am a
I'm
true
like, oh, no.
believer. I am a true believer that we've based this country on innocence until
Right.
proven guilty.
Right.
We've lost
Right.
that in this country.
Oh, we've completely. Yeah, we have. We've
and
completely
it's-
lost it.
It's like it's easy to pick on the millionaire, right? He's had this great life. Fuck him. He's a piece of shit.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Think about if it was
Right.
your brother or your sister being accused of this and they had no money. You know,
Right.
innocent until proven
Right.
guilty. And when you're guilty,
Right. Well-
you'll pay the price.
Right. Well, that's the problem too, though, because when you're really, really wealthy, they cannot identify with you, and when you're really, really poor, the wealthy really don't give a damn. So basically, it's the maker himself who doesn't see the difference between the two. Taking a lousy run at things and you're doing things wrong, he doesn't. Which way or what sort of life you come from? It's your morals. That's what we're talking about here. It's your moral choices.
Right.
Period.
So
You know.
I'll end it with this, Jimmy. First, I want to thank Lee again for coming on. One thing I've always liked about Lee, Jimmy, is Lee's had his problems throughout his life, but the one thing he's always done, he's always owned it. He has always owned it, and I've always respected that
Right.
about him. Right, but
Right.
I want people to understand where I'm coming from. You have a morality issue, and you have a life issue. We all try to hold ourselves up to a certain moral standard. But I can't tell you, Jimmy, what to do in your bedroom and to do in your life as long as you're not hurting anybody, right? Right? You're not killing anybody. You're not hurting anybody. You're not
Right.
stealing from anybody. So I could say morality, yeah, I don't agree with it. You're a piece of garbage. But there's two different things going on here. If you're going to judge a human being on just morality, you better look in your own kitchen. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because we all know,
Right.
right?
Right.
Hell of a show, Jimmy. That was a rough show, boy.
We're living in the world of internet sabotage, man. Everybody's got a gun now, and it's their computer, bro. And that's the age we're living in. And right now, it's open season on Vince McMahon for all those who've been waiting all these years, no matter what their issue may be. Look, Lee's 1,000% justified to feel the way he feels, okay? But there's a lot of folks out there that don't have a clue about what a Lee Cole went through, or Tom Cole, or whoever else. They don't have a clue, but they've got their ammo ready to go. They've already passed judgment. Welcome to the internet assassin age. It is what it is, bro.
I do
just
have
shrugged it
some,
off and
I
smoked
do
a
have some good
cigarette.
news. I do have some good
Figured
news.
what?
Next week,
What?
Baby Doll will be making her return. The great NWA legend will
Very
be
nice.
interviewing the great Baby Doll. And looks like we're going to have Missy Beefcake along with her husband, the Brutus Beefcake, will also. So we got back-to-backs, Jimmy. And the best
nice.
news of it all is after the show, John Cena is still following us.
Actually, I have one interruption real
Love the
quick.
show!
We have big news.
Wait, Abe's got big news.
We actually have a
What?
surprise call in right now. Are you guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we
Go
go.
ahead.
It's John Cena, guys. You guys are on with John Cena right now.
John Cena, welcome to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. John, your sound's not working.
Yeah, it sounds a little messed up. We're going to have to fix that. But
John, we can't hear you. John, are we the best show around? What'd you think of that interview,
Yes.
John? Was that interview good?
Oh, that's me. Oh, never mind. Oh, sorry. You're not supposed to put me on when I'm mimicking. What are you doing?
All right, I want to thank everybody for joining Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty and Farrell. Catch us next week where we have the NWA legend Baby Doll, and then it's not official, but it is official. Missy Beefcake with Brutus Beefcake. Jimmy, want to come back for another week?
Sure. Why not? I'm there.
Send us out, big guy.
You've been watching Monty and the Pharaoh. And until next time, later.